Hey student, watch this video and learn the difference between despite and in spite of. Coming up. Hey friends, Teacher Prix here to help you talk to anyone, anywhere, anytime in English. First of all, thank you so much for joining me on another lesson. And if it's your first time here, consider subscribing because from Monday to Friday, I post different kinds of English lessons to help you become a better and more confident English speaker. Anyways, my friends, let's dive into the content. Today I'm gonna go straight to the lesson because I don't have enough time, and this is a very delicate subject, so if you have more questions at the end of this lesson, make sure to let me know in the comments. I'm not going to talk about other kinds of words that are similar to despite and in spite of, but many English learners who study these words have questions about other ones. Okay, so today I'm going to be talking about despite and in spite of, and make sure to check it out. Anyways, my friends, basically despite is a word that you can use to show that two possibilities, okay? You can use this word to show that something happened or something is true, okay? So either because it happened or because it is true, even though something else might have happened to prevent it. Okay, so here you have one fact that happened or that is true, even though there is a contrast situation that tried to make this stop, the first action, the action that happened, or the action that is true. So there is another action that could have, might have prevented this first action from happening, from existing. So basically we have two, what I like to call two ideas, okay? We have idea one and we have idea two. And idea two, when you use despite, or idea two or idea one, okay? One idea is always trying to prevent the other, to stop the other from being true or from happening. But this action happens anyways, okay? Now, you will use despite, always next to despite. So you start with despite, and then the next word will have to be a noun or a gerund. So when I say gerund, I'm talking about verb plus ing, going, studying, listening, doing, ing, gerund, okay? Or it can be a noun or a word that is connecting to a noun. Her friend, her effort. Her is a possessive adjective. It's not really a noun, but it's connecting to the noun. Her effort, her friend. So you also need to take that into consideration, okay? Now, I'm going to show you here an example just so you can understand the idea of despite and the idea of the two phrases, two ideas, okay? So here the first example. Her hand was shaking. Oh. Despite all her effort to control them. So here, what is the idea two trying to say? Idea two, all her effort to control the hands, them. This idea was trying to stop the first idea, okay? But it couldn't. So the first idea happened despite the second idea. So the second idea is always trying to stop, to prevent the first from happening. But it doesn't work, okay? So her hand was shaking despite her effort to control it. So what is the idea here? Maybe let's imagine a situation. Mary, she had to make a presentation. And when she stands up and begins her presentation, her hands start shaking. And she tries to control, she breathes, but she can't. So despite her effort to control her hands, they couldn't stop shaking. So that's the idea of a little bit of contrast. She was trying to do something, but it didn't work. It didn't help her. It didn't get to what she needed. Okay? That's why I tell you that I will use this word when I want to show that something happened or something is true, even though I was trying to do something else to prevent it from happening, to stop it from happening. Okay? Another example, despite the rain, so the rain was happening, they went to the beach. So it was raining. Cats and dogs. Expression from last week. It was raining cats and dogs. They went to the beach. Let's enjoy the beach on a rainy day. Have you ever been to the beach on a rainy day? Could you enjoy it? Let me know. So despite the rain, even though it was raining, although it was raining, they went to the beach. We go to the beach anytime, whether it's raining or not. What do you think, guys? Excuse me. Moving on. Now, as I said, just emphasizing here, you will use despite plus verb ing or despite plus noun. And, first let's see here. He played well despite a knee injury. So a knee, okay, it's part of your body. It's in the middle of your leg. It's dividing, it's between the calves and feet and the thighs, okay? So he was having a knee problem. He had a knee problem, a knee injury, okay? But he played well. So he played well. That is true. That's a fact. It happened despite the knee injury. So imagine a soccer player with a very bad knee. Can he play well? Some players can. That's what happened here. Maybe the knee was supposed to stop that player from doing a good job, but he did it anyways, okay? They lost the game despite all their hard work. So let's imagine your favorite team. They worked really hard. They tried to play, but they lost. So all their hard work, so think about the second idea. All their hard work could not help them win. They still lost. So that's the idea of despite. Despite having, ing, despite having an umbrella, I got completely wet. It was raining heavily. It was raining a lot. I had an umbrella, but it was raining a lot, so I got wet. So you see, when I give you the explanation to the phrase, I can make different constructions. So that's why what I'm trying to say here is you can use despite and you can use in spite of. However, there are many different ways for you to explain that. So here, for example, despite having an umbrella, although I had an umbrella, I got completely wet. Okay, I had an umbrella, but I got completely wet because it was raining. So you see, the beauty of English is you always have an option. Okay, moving on. Depending on the sentences, this is important. You can switch, you can invert the first and second sentence. However, there are some small changes. Okay, so take a look at the example below. They went to the beach despite the rain. Despite the rain, they still went to the beach. So here, I don't make many changes. I included the word still just to give a little emphasis that it was raining, but anyways, they still went to the beach. So it's possible. Here I didn't change so much. Let's see if I have another example. No, I don't. But the idea is very similar, okay? However, depending on the phrase, you may need to change. Let's see if I have here. I remember despite the rain, they went to the beach. Yeah, I don't have it here. But in general, sometimes, the hand shaking is a good example. Her hand was shaking despite all her effort to control them. Here, I could say her hands were shaking. So here I could say, despite all her effort to control, I cannot say them because I never mentioned hands. So I need to say hands. Despite all her effort to control her hands, they were shaking. So I need to adapt. They were still shaking. They were shaking a lot. So depending on the phrase, I can invert the phrases, but I will have to make some adaptations, okay? But it is possible, all right? Now, in spite of. In spite of has the same meaning as despite. Yay! What's the difference? Well, nothing. Well, there are some written differences. If you see despite is one single word, now here I need in spite of. I cannot just write in spite. I cannot only write spite of, in spite of. And one common mistake English learners make, they include a preposition here of. No, only despite. It's no despite of. Only in spite of, okay? It's the same idea as despite. Same thing. Now, the biggest difference that I would like to emphasize here, I will go back to the previous slide. The main difference you can see is despite is a little bit more formal and will be more common in written language. In spite of is more commonly used in spoken conversations. Sherry, that's exactly what I'm saying now. So despite is more common in written language. In spite of can be used in conversations. Now, depending on how informal your conversation is, you are not gonna use it in spite of, okay? It really depends, unless you are an advanced speaker. If you are an advanced speaker, you will be able to connect the ideas more easily, maybe an intermediate speaker, but you don't need to use these words in informal situations, but it's not wrong. Maybe despite is more common in written language, but in spite of, not really. Go for it, okay? You can. Now, you just need to give me examples of what kind of informal situations, because at the end of the day, it's not about the informality, but the subject. Because you need to find a subject where you can include these words and create a phrase. Remember, one idea is contrasting the other, kind of, okay? Not exactly contrasting, but it's giving this idea. So I was working really hard. So in spite of working hard, I didn't get the job. Despite working really hard, well, not the job, the promotion. I didn't get a promotion. So although I worked really hard, I didn't get a promotion. So despite working really hard, I was not promoted. So I would, let's say I went to a bar and this happened to me, I didn't get a promotion. I would never start a conversation, you know what, in spite of working really hard, I didn't get a promotion. I would definitely sit down and say, you know what, I worked my ass off and I wasn't promoted. Can you believe that? That's what I would say. Okay, so that's why I need you to analyze the moments when you use them. Maybe you need to analyze how informal your conversation is. Now, if I were in an informal environment and I was talking about a serious subject, something more complex, then in spite of would be okay. So it all comes down to how informal something is, what kind of conversation you are having. Okay, now and here, as I said, do not use the preposition of with despite, only with in spite of. In spite of, you do need. Now here are some examples, the same examples I used with despite, here they are with in spite of. They went to the beach in spite of the rain. So it was raining, but they went to the beach anyways. No problems. Why? Well, usually it's common sense that people don't go to the beach when it's raining. But they didn't care. In spite of the rain, they went to the beach, okay? In spite of having an umbrella, I got completely wet. Despite having an umbrella, I got completely wet. He played really well in spite of a knee injury. He played really well despite a knee injury, okay? So both are acceptable. Just keep in mind that despite is more commonly used in written language and in spite of is more commonly used in conversations in a spoken language. But as I said, it all comes down to the conversation, to the kind of conversation you're having. You need to take that into consideration, okay? Because depending on what kind of conversation you're having, you're not going to use in spite of, okay? Now, why did I make this video if depending on the conversation you won't use it? Because it's important that you know. I see many English learners using this incorrectly. I appreciate you using it. I think you should go for it. But it's also important to study these lessons a little bit, understand the main differences, and practice, which is what I want to invite you to do right now. I want you to create one example with despite and one example with in spite of. All right? Here in the comments, come back after the video is over, because here right now I'm making a live lesson. All the lessons from Monday to Thursday are live. The Friday lessons are not usually live, sometimes. But I really encourage you to come back here in the comments and post one example with each one. Other than that, if you have more questions, post them in the comments as well. I'll be more than happy to check them out. Thank you so much, and I will see you tomorrow for another English lesson. Bye bye!